Hello, hello, beautiful stars. Hello, hello. Courtney Harris, Stars of the Morning Light. I am normally never here this late in the evening. So if you are here, thank you for joining us. Also, I've been moving a bunch of stuff around, and so I do believe I hooked everything up correctly. So I'm hoping people come into the chat and I can say hello to you, and you can say hello to me, letting me know that all is working. Thank you. So I've been actually wanting to do this for quite a while because in January, I did the January 2024 collective like predictions. And I can't find where I wrote them down. So I went back and I re-listened to some of it. I now realize that the first time I mentioned that there was like a galactic meeting was in January. It was happening January 20th. And I completely didn't realize that that was a part of what I talked about, nor did I realize I talked about the Great Crack. I will tell you, in reviewing a lot of my writing or Akashic readings and to myself and whatnot, um, I saw that I need to start talking about the Great Crack this July. So I will be doing that. I will be talking about the Great Crack. I had to go back and listen to myself. And so with doing that, it's kind of written down real poorly, to jog my memory. But I wanted to come here and talk about 2024 because we're halfway through. We are in June. And so we're halfway through the year. Before I get into what they had said, what had happened, and you can go back and listen to the videos. I mean, they're there. They're in the they might be in playlists and they're definitely in the videos. So what they had said was um I did the reading before January 20th. And so before the galactic meeting. So they're like, here, this is what we can give you now. So I kind of took off of that because then it went into like a whole bunch of other stuff like the native rising and the prophecies there, and I did like two different videos on it. The I did one. The first one is about what we're going to talk about today to check in with, and then I did a second one that I think was more about the native rising, and then I did a third one which is kind of like a how to navigate this stuff. And I am kind of just talking slowly to see if anybody knows that I'm here to tell me that this is working correctly. I see there might be two people watching. So I'm going to trust that everything is working accordingly. Excuse me. I started. Wow. Sorry, guys. It is way past my bedtime. um, even before I started yawning and yawning and yawning, and I was like, "No, don't yawn." So that was actually me trying to hold back a yawn to not be rude and be like, "Oh, I'm exhausted right now, folks." Um, and then it turned into a horrible cough. That's great. So anyways, hey, everybody. Beautiful stars. And before we get into the 2024 thing, myself, I think I've spoken to 3 others, and there was a reading for someone that had this to was a part of it. Um, the Akashic has been talking to me for like 2 years now about gardening. Okay. So I know everybody now in the world is into, or they're trying to be, you know, organic and grow your own food, especially with the prices, grow your own. And you can do it even if you're in an apartment building. I've done it. Trust me, I've done it. I was going to show pictures, but because I was pretty much checking to see if I was here, "Oh, Cheryl, thank you for saying that I'm here. Okay, thank you. And I see Susie's here. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, thank you." Um, I was gonna do a video. I was gonna actually record it and be all prepared and talk somewhat about what's going on with the vegetables, the gardening, the land, and then go into recapping the 2024 predictions. But because I've been moving a whole bunch of stuff around, I was like, well, I hope I put it all together correctly, hooked everything up right, and so I just decided to go live. I want to talk about the gardening first. So, for about 2 years, the Akashic has been talking to me about gardening. I don't garden a whole lot, but I garden enough for my household. Let's say that. Um, and maybe a little bit extra to spare. Um, but they've been trying to say, hey, things are going to be changing. Do it this way. Change things are going to be changing. Do it that way. And of course, well, I'm human. We don't listen all that well, do we? But now I'm actually seeing signs as to what they've been trying to describe to me. And I'm not just seeing it at my place, I'm seeing it at I'm friends with farmers, I'm friends with homesteaders, I'm friends with a whole bunch of people. I'm like I said, even I'm there's a homesteader that I did a reading for who usually asks about this season's crop and how to handle things because of weather conditions or what have you. And so even when I was doing the reading for her, I went, "Oh my goodness, it's all here." So, as we talk a lot here at Stars of the Morning Light about the pole shift, and I call it the flippy floppy of the poles. I mean, these poles really are shifting, and we are here to help Gaia transition, so it's not some massive calamity. But at the same time, we have to allow her and nature to reteach us and retrain us. So let me explain. For like 2 years, they've been telling me to do it differently, to garden differently. And I just didn't get what was being told. I didn't understand. The signs that we're seeing now is that let's take like a pepper plant. And I will actually post pictures of some of this stuff so you can see. Or actually, no, let's talk about my watermelon and pumpkin right now. So normally watermelon and pumpkin, they will start growing this long vine with these huge leaves and take over a huge patch, right? They grow that way, and I know all of you understand this. You've seen patches before. And then they have these flowers that bud, and then the bud usually falls off and it turns into it's growing a pumpkin or watermelon. But it's long and strong and a big patch, big leaves. That's not so much what you see right now, and I'll take pictures of my own. You're gonna see these little guys, these little I mean, no bigger than this, standing upright and starting to flower right there. And then the flowers usually because they'll drop and then it'll start growing, you know, um, they might drop and not grow anything, or they might grow something right there and then the plant's not strong enough. I was at a homestead, I think a friend of mine, this was about 2, 3 weeks ago. So early in the season, she had a pepper plant about yay high. When pepper plants grow nice and tall, she had a pepper plant about yay high that was growing a huge pepper. That pepper was this big. It was this big. It was the size of my palm, that big of a pepper on a plant that was this big, this small, just a little baby plant. It's happening everywhere. I talked to another woman the other day. Her berries have already fully bloomed, come in, and if they are not harvested now, she's gonna lose them. That would be very early. So here's the deal. What they've been trying to explain to me, and I'll post pictures of stuff that's happening in my house, other people's homes, in the next week or so on the community page, and I'll kinda attach this and attach the pictures. Because it's happening across the board. Like, I'm witnessing it. It kinda was present last year, but I didn't really wasn't really catching on, and I thought maybe it was something else. No, it's definitely what they're trying to tell us. They have been telling me for a long time we have to change the way we garden. What that means, and actually it's in our favor. It's in our favor, as in most of us are worried about food, right? The cost of food, and if this whole shit house goes up in flames type of thing, how are we going to survive, right? A lot of people are worried about that. It's actually the earth is trying to help us, but we have to retrain ourselves. And they did then tell me people are going to start seeing the signs, and it's going to be at least another 2 years of retraining the humans. So no longer is it going to look like we plant in the spring and harvest in the fall. It's not this 3, 4, 5 month process. We're going to start bringing that down to, I mean, eventually in another year or so, they're going to want us to bring it down to you plant and you harvest like every 6 to 8 weeks, like rotating things in and out. So let's say 6 to 8 weeks, you plant, like 5 different varieties, okay? Like, that the first patch or the first set is, like, 5 different varieties. Well, then within 6 to 8 weeks, you harvest that. Then you till, and then you put in a whole new set of 5 different ones. So, instead of, like, we're used to this with, like, we have our summer crops, and we have our things that we plant maybe more in the fall, right? Take those 2 different kind. So, like, you plant normally your lettuce, your spinach, stuff like that, maybe more in the fall, right? Because it can handle the cooler temperatures. And then all your summer stuff is, well, we know. Imagine doing, like, your summer, then doing another round of summer, then another round of summer, and then doing fall, fall, fall. Like, we're gonna be shrinking our time, from planting and harvest, and it's going to be shrunk in size, but yet still produce enough for us. I know this sounds weird. I saw it last year. I was looking at corn, at people's homesteads, and knowing corn, that's like the one thing I do know, being from Illinois, and my family grew corn. I and I had a neighbor trying to do corn last year, and I remember just looking at this corn thinking, "Oh my goodness, you are way too short." Like, did they mess up? What happened? But yet it still produced enough to say that there was somewhat of a harvest. It just did not grow to the standard size. So, I wanted to put that in there because it's not just me, I have loved ones, and it's not just here in the South either. It's other places. Susie, thank you, Susie. Susie K just said true. So I know Susie, geez. Susie is by Montana somewhere in there. Um, so we're all experiencing this. I've talked to people all over, at least the United States, and we're all experiencing these things. So we have to start to retrain ourselves, which is really hard when you think humans have been gardening, harvesting, farming in that order, in that predictability of I've got 3, 4, 5 months, depending on your location, in that for hundreds and hundreds of years. To now we have to completely retrain what is innately within us to understand. We have to now retrain all of that. And they said, just let the plants show you. The plants will show you what they need and when it's time and when it's not time and when to lay off and when to do this and when to do that. And I will tell you, and it's because of the shift. It's mostly, I would say 90% because of the shift that is happening with the poles. Same as the weather is very different compared to what is kind of the standard. I will tell you, it has been beautiful in North Georgia lately. Beautiful. We usually are 105 by June 10th. We're in the hundreds. I think today was a high of 84. I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful. Not normal here. And I've been asking other people, right? What's your weather doing? What's this doing? So our crops are changing, our weather is changing, the land will even be shifting. So we have to start paying attention even more so and allow the nature to teach us. We really have to be open to release a lot of the old concepts and be open to letting nature reveal. Okay, Susie just said someone told me to put cork and put copper wire around it and it will grow a lot better. Yes. Hi Max, good to see you. Um I actually have some copper with some of my plants, especially the ones that are vine type of plants, growing plants. Um like if I'm having them grow up a chain or grow up something, I'll have a copper tube there. And it does usually, yeah, they do like it. They do. They also, I mean, depending on where you live and how, if you care what your neighbors think or not, I will tell you, um, if you can create like even a small copper pyramid, like I know all of you in this chat at least have seen my copper pyramid when it's erected. You can make a very small version of that with copper and set it on top of a plant and it'll grow tremendously. It'll be wonderful because nothing negative can get into a pyramid, and then it's also made out of copper. The Russians did a ton of testing on all this, and the crops without pyramids I mean, they did all right, but the crops under a pyramid superseded the other ones. So it's that can always help as well. It's more of the getting used to the change in time in opposed to months. And I think this year is going to be kind of loose as in because it they spoke about we're going to try to help retrain you humans, right? And it is actually in our favor because what we're looking at is because the weather is going to be changing a lot from here on out, right? That if we start getting used to planting and harvesting every 8 weeks, every 2 months, and then we do it again, and then we do it again. Eventually, there will only be about a 2-month gap that we're not gonna be able to. It's if we get used to how to do this, and nature shows us how to do this, even if it's the winter time, it is going to be, "Okay, well, then you do your winter stuff right before it's gonna be really bad," because it'll grow and produce for us before it goes bad. So, in essence too, they want us to get used to just cycling through things, so then we also can learn that we're never gonna be without. Like, we'll always have something, right? We'll always be able to have something. Um, this is I think I'm gonna end up doing, like, a side video about it, but I did wanna get it out there because 'cause it's been a big thing. It's been a big thing. Okay. Max said it's also cooler than normal in the north. Susie just said that it's 90 in South Dakota. I think it's going to be about 90 or so here. So, Susie, you're getting actually, I don't know what the weather normally is in South Dakota. I do speak to those in the chat when I'm live. Um, if it's Susie, is it normally there 90? Because I think we're headed into like the early 90s, but it's still remarkably nice here for um, this time of the year. So I will probably talk about that a little bit in a different video because because truthfully, I'm still also trying to wrap my head around it as well. I watched my plants completely not produce really anything last year, and I thought something horrible had happened. I'm knowing now it's because I didn't tend to them with whatever their new needs are. Like, I was still in the old patterns, and so this year, I'm being very hyper focused on what do these plants need, and so I will let you know as I go along with it. Seeker just came in, good to see you, Seeker. Seeker is actually the one that, um, I talk a lot with plants about crops and whatnot with. So Miss Shelley, we were just closing that up. What stuff that you already know, so good. This is a recap of the first set of like predictions for January of 2020 or the whole year of 2024 because we're in the 6th month. We're halfway there, folks. So, going into how we were just talking about the crops will even be changing because the weather is changing. They opened up with, so I'll refresh everybody's memories. Natural disasters will start April of 2024. And they were talking about massive rains, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods. And actually, they didn't say floods, they said mudslides. They said mudslides. And that's across the globe. That's wherever. So to tell you the truth, I don't keep up with the news that much. I know of all the tornadoes that have been going through, of course, the states. Um, but April was also just a month or so ago. Well, 2 months ago, a month or so. Um, so natural disasters are going to kind of kick off or start April 2024. Um, I know that Shelly, Seeker of Truth 2, that's in the chat, she had gotten snow in like at Mother's Day in May, where she's at in Northern California. Sometimes do they get snow late in the year, like April-ish? Yeah, but it was all the way into May. So the weather is changing greatly. And then they did say it is because it's all in preparation of the Great Crack, which I said at the very beginning of this video that I had found recently going back through a lot of my readings that supposedly I have to start talking to everybody about the Great Crack in July of 2024. So I guess that's happening next month, everybody. I will talk to you about that. It is in relation to and it's not happening right now. Please don't worry about it right now. And don't worry about it at all. We got this. Um, it is in relation to like the Edgar Casey map. How I was told about it many moons ago. Um, they refer to it as the great crack for me, probably because of just how I communicate, how I have dialogue, right? But it is related to what he was talking about as well. So then in the 2024 yearly predictions, they went on to talk about people's senses will be on fire, especially when it comes to about their ambition and or purpose. Um, so that's going to be like at the forefront of people's minds. And then they went into quote unquote what we call the sixth sense. And they said it is going to be prevalent in like people's lives, their sixth sense, something they're probably not even aware that they have in late 2024. So we're talking October, November, December time. They said the sixth sense will be prevalent for people late 2024 because they will no longer believe what is projected. So it's as if this summer and maybe a bit of the fall, a lot of people are using all their other senses, all their taste, touch, feel senses, hearing, right? Sight. Um, using all their other five senses that will be on fire, like they're alive, they're woken up, they're going. And it's to help them focus on their ambition and purpose. But through that, people are going to no longer believe what is projected. So that does mean over the course of probably it's already started, right? But we're seeing more people not believe the hype around all the media, all the this, all the that. They're trying to understand concepts like the Matrix. They're trying to understand even stuff like manifesting. My husband was telling me about the protesting in France right now, and he was like, "It's interesting because they use the word manifest to say demonstrate, like it's demonstrations going on and protesting. Um, manifest and demonstrate are the same word. It's literally the same meaning. And so when people start to understand more stuff, like even simplest things like manifesting and demonstrating through your five senses to work towards your ambition and purpose, letting go of what is being projected, right? Projected. That's what they said. No longer that people will no longer believe what is projected. And towards the end of the year, because of that, because of all the awareness and, no longer believing in the projections, their sixth sense will ignite, which that's awesome. That is really cool. Um, then they started talking about lost civilizations will appear in people's mindsets. And I think there was briefly something else that they said. It's I don't know, and I'll have to double check maybe. Lost civilizations will appear in people's mindsets. There's been a lot of talk and it is happening, but not everybody is aware of it or you know, they're focused on something else. There's also a rise in like Egyptian um law ancient civilization of Egypt, even in South America, that sort of stuff. There is a rise in that right now, and it's because of Planetarily. I mean, Planetarily has described that this was going to be happening, right? But I think what this really is too, they might uncover something towards the end of the year. I don't know. I didn't double ask, but even lost civilizations will appear in people's mindsets. So that could be two things. Either they start learning about ancient civilizations to understand their today and that whole no longer believe what is projected, right? Like the two will work as, as a team there to bring in that sixth sense. Or when people, that sixth sense kind of ignites, well, then all of a sudden they might start remembering stuff, lost civilizations on their mindsets. They might start remembering past lives. They might start experiencing things. Anyone who might listen to this later, Max Vision remote viewing class, he helps people learn how to remote view. People might start automatically doing that and all of a sudden be in Egypt and then feel weird and then come back and have to learn about Egypt or whatever it may be. There is going to be um, lost civilizations will be influencing things. Let's say that because if it's on people's mindsets, then it is influencing. Then they went into human discovery must be understood to change how it is done. And I do know that in the video that I originally did, I went from like this lost civilization stuff to human discovery stuff, and I kind of clumped everything together. And I was talking a lot about human discovery as in technology, and then think about what just humans do when they discover new things, when they discover new lands or new, maybe civilizations that will be dug up somewhere, right? Um, I think with the onset of everybody talking about AI, and of course, this is all planetary as well, the AI influx. I mean, we're headed towards the age of Aquarius, and it is all AI with Aquarius. AI is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it is this saying that they had: human discovery must be understood to change how it is done. And I think that's where most people, when they no longer believe what is projected, is a big chunk of them asking, just because we can, should we? Right? Human discovery must be understood, sorry, to change how it is done. So in that understanding, there's should we or should we not? How do we do this safely? How do we do this or do we do it at all? Right? Like all sorts of questions within that understanding to change how it is done. So the stuff with, and this goes with all technology. And see that that's the thing too, when we start studying ancient civilizations, think of all of them that were pulling from the earth and it actually brought the destruction onto them, right? Think of South America when they're pulling all of the lime out of the earth to cover themselves in white powder to look good, right? Because it was a class thing to look good, and they pulled all the lime out of the earth, and it devastated the earth, and then they perished away. They died because of wanting to look good, right? All sorts of civilizations have taught us this over and over and over again. And I think that's a little bit of going to be happening here as well. Should we? Should we not? Is this okay? Is it not? I think, to tell you the truth, I think cloning is going to start coming back into question. Um, Things of that nature, things that we thought we put to the side, like, okay, maybe it's a possibility, but maybe we shouldn't. I think it's going to be a discussion again. So we really do have to have discernment to change how we do things when it comes to human discovery. And human discovery, that can be from technology to even community. It can be from anything. I mean, individually, you discovering something is human discovery, right? They left with this. They ended it with this, at least in that part of the reading. They ended it with this. 2024, individual changes, deep insight, and letting go of fear. And then they spoke about how there cannot be a collective without the individual, which is true. A lot of people talk about the collective, but as if they're not a part of it, or they don't think their part matters as much. There can't be a collective without the individuals. So 2024 is individual changes, deep insights, and letting go of fear. And I think what they previously said, letting go of fear, could be all that conversation about that sixth sense coming in and no longer believing what is projected. Okay, well, when we start letting go of that stuff, letting go of the fear that is projected, that's huge. Deep insights can go into that when they were talking about the ancient civilizations. The civilizations will appear in people's mindsets. And individual changes, for me, goes into that human discovery must be understood to change how it is done. And then it goes all the way to the back about the natural disasters that will be happening because stuff is going on with our earth. And so any of the technology coming through, any of the group effort, any of the individual effort, even in just trying to have a positive mindset, for me is for the earth. And so I think a lot of that individual change plays into that human discovery. And I think humans, thank goodness, because I think humans, if they discover their sixth sense, if they discover they can stop believing in the projection, if they discover aspects of ancient civilizations for themselves, only good can come from this. Only good can come from the self discovery of who and what you are, right? The most awesome being, the ultimate being, the great being. Yeah, humans are awesome. Humans are really cool. Humans are great. Um, so I think if we kind of go through it all and then we reverse it back, I don't know, you tell me. You tell me so far, how has the 2024 gone for you? You can say it in the chat, you can say it in the comments below. This was kind of a check-in to remind us of, wait a minute. So, do you feel like your senses are alive? They're on fire? And are you thinking often about what your ambitions are or what your purpose is? Like, is it creativity that's just wanting to pour out? And then we don't give ourselves enough time to, make it happen or whatever it is. Like, do you feel like this push? Do you feel like your sixth sense might be slowly opening up, or are you definitely not? Are you letting go and not believing all that is being projected? Um, are you thinking about lost civilizations? I have no idea. They're telling me lost civilizations will appear in people's mindsets. That could mean so many things, folks, and for the individuals. I mean, that could mean so many things. Um, and are you going through changes, deep insights? Are you letting go of fear? This is our 6-month check in, our 6-month recap, our 6-month where are we at with it, folks? So I'm going to ask myself these questions. I am. I see that Mary Wins came in. Good to see you, my dear. Um, I think for me, I'll just stick with the last three because that they said that that was the most important or the most prevalent and important and what people really need to pay attention to because once again, the collective is made up of individuals. So, um, good to see you, Jules. Um, so maybe check in with yourself. I'm going to check in with myself. Am I going through changes? Yeah, I guys, I'm definitely going through changes. Yeah, I'm definitely going through changes. Woo. Yeah. Deep insights. Am I am I going through deep insights? Are you guys going through deep insights? Mm, I gotta think of the past 6 months. Yes. When I had to think of yes. Since January? Oh my goodness, yes. Okay, yeah, some deep insights that created big change. Yeah. Um, am I letting go of fear? Are you all letting go of fear? Yeah. Yeah. I don't hold much fear. Um, and I've noticed too, kind of in this past year that, and it is because I'm getting older, that my mind shifts into different things that could be fear based, and sometimes it is, and then I don't stay there. Older, as in, when's this going to happen? When's that going to happen? When's this going to happen? Little thoughts like that that come and go. Um, do I fear them? Not necessarily, but I have noticed in 2024, all those like little things um, that do cause people fear, they're popping up into my mind much more. So, but I'm releasing them. I'm either I say, "Hold, you just wait right there, and I'll look at you later," or, and when I say this, I mean like, okay, do just random thoughts like, "Oh, maybe I should get a insurance policy, or maybe this," or, just random thoughts of that nature, and I know that Lucky and I, Lucky Stone 888, we are going to have a pre-recording for Friday night, and I do believe we're gonna be talking about heartbreak and grief, because I believe that many people 2024 is kind of when that really hit them from all that we've lived through, because it's hard to experience the loss when you're in the loss to a full extent, and it could be loss of anything, and I think it's kind of all hitting people now. So we're going to be talking about that, and we're also then going to be live on his show on his channel on June 21st, the following Friday. I don't know what we're talking about over there. That Lucky has to, he's the one that runs the show over there. So this Friday though, we're going to be talking about that. Grief and heartbreak and the human condition in that form. So, have I been letting go of fear? Yes. And I think what I'm trying to say is that fears that I didn't necessarily have before because I was young. and I wasn't thinking about them are popping up into my mind now. Um, and so do I necessarily fear them to an extent? No, not longer than whatever period it takes to go through the course of that thought, but it is still there. And sometimes I might hold on to them just for a little bit to look at them, to understand. But it is more frequent. I will tell you that. It's more frequent. It might be my age. It might be because of 2024 and then they're saying, "No, get rid of it. Get rid of that fear. That little fear, get rid of it. That little fear, get rid of it. That little fear." And so they might be popping up into our minds a lot more and all sorts of different variations because fear fear is usually based out of three things: rejection, loss, or straight up survival. And we know now that a lot of us are looking at straight up survival, right? And then everything, all those little thoughts kind of can go into one of those categories, right? And rejection is rejection. We all know what rejection is, either the fear of being rejected or actually being rejected. Loss, either the fear of losing something or actually losing something. Because a ton of fear is actually it's our imagination. We're making up all of this fear. We're making up all the things. The rating for June was all about the coulds in the world that consume us and prevent us from living life. So, and then survival, which a lot of people are looking at. They're looking at the true nature of survival. So, I think there is. I think people are being shown things, witness things, going through things, actually for us to release it, not to stay in fear. So once again, we kind of ask ourselves, are we in love or are we in fear? Are we in love or are we in fear? And if we're in fear, then there's a various ways to work through it and to release it. The main thing is to try to sustain being in love as more frequently, as often as we can to and love is all various ways and differences too. I mean, it might just be giving yourself that extra 20 minutes of quiet time. That's love. It could be anything. So we do have to ask ourselves though, am I walking in love or am I walking in fear? Because really, it's either or. It's either or. There's not too much anything else. I will tell you, I got that originally a long time ago from the Reverend. It was a Reverend in the 30s. He was actually a really great guy. Um, I can't think. Oh, Emmett Fox. Emmett Fox. He was a Reverend in the 30s and 40s. Cool guy, studied a lot of different stuff, not just, the Christianity. Broke down some parts of like Christianity in ways that I haven't really heard since. And he's the one who introduced me to um you're either in love or you're either in fear, right? So, and it blew my mind, very much like Manly P. Hall. So, folks, it was good to be with you. Sorry this was a little bit of a bumpy start. Thank you for showing up and telling me that you can hear me. This was just a brief overview. At the beginning, we talked about gardening. So if you're interested in knowing what happened at the beginning, go back if you're in the chat and you can listen. And everybody have a good week. I apologize that I was not with you for Edgar Casey Life Skill Studies today. Um, Clearly, I was still hooking up my stuff at that time. So, um, but I'm with you now. So, have a good weekend, everybody. Be with Lucky and I Friday night. It's pre-recorded, 8 o'clock here, Eastern Standard Time, this week. heartbreak and grief and probably a whole bunch of stuff and letting go. I think we're going to talk a lot about letting go. So it'll be lovely. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. Good to see everybody. Bye, folks.